Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I am Uzma Jafri. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 29th of November. India's Earth observation satellite among 31 sent into space. Resistance mounting against illegal occupation of Gilgit Baltistan, Pakistan-administered Kashmir. And at least 10 dead in terror attack in Afghan capital Kabul. And now for all the details. Indian Space Research Organisation on Thursday launched a rocket carrying the country's Earth observation satellite and 30 other satellites for 8 countries. The latest launch is part of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ambition to project India as a global low-cost provider of services in space.
India on Thursday fired a rocket carrying 31 satellites into the space, including its own advanced Earth observation satellite among the other smaller ones launched for 8 countries. According to the Indian Space Research Organisation or ISRO, the rocket launched from the southern province of Andhra Pradesh carried the hyperspectral imaging satellite with high-resolution and digital imaging equipment to map the Earth. Satellites from Australia, Colombia, Malaysia and Spain were carried for the first time by an Indian rocket in the latest launch.
This satellite, that is, one set of satellite is for Earth observation, another set of satellite for communication, yet another set is for this one, that is our IRNSS mission, then some satellites for the space science mission. Almost like 15-16 satellite for communication, then 15-16 satellite for the Earth observation, then 8 satellite for the navigation, and 2 satellite for science. Is that type of thing.
The launch is a part of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ambition to project India as a global low-cost provider of services in space. It comes nearly 2 weeks after GSAT-29, India's heaviest satellite, was sent into space.
Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj on Wednesday said that India will not take part in a summit of South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation or SAARC leaders set for Islamabad. She said that unless and until Pakistan stops terrorist activities in India, there will be no dialogue.
Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj on Wednesday said that India would not take part in a summit of South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation or SAARC leaders set for Islamabad. While speaking to reporters in India's southern Hyderabad city, Swaraj said even though Indian lawmakers travelled to Pakistan on Wednesday for foundation stone laying ceremony of a cross-border pilgrim corridor, it did not mean resumption of dialogue.
So that invitation has already been given, but we are not responding to it positively because, as I said, that unless and until Pakistan stops terrorist activities in India, there will be no dialogue and we will not participate in SAARC.
India has long accused Pakistan of arming and infiltrating terrorists across the border to mount attacks on Indian soil. Pakistan denies the accusations. India had earlier in September called off a meeting between its foreign minister and her Pakistani counterpart to protest against the killing of Indian security personnel by Pakistan-based entities near the border in India's Jammu and Kashmir province.
Moving on. A protest was recently held by activists in London to demand an end to the decades-long subjugation and economic depredation of Gilgit Baltistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The protesters also raised concerns over construction of mega dams by Pakistan in the illegally occupied regions.
Activists recently took to the streets in London to demand an end to the decades-long subjugation and economic depredation of Gilgit Baltistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. They raised their concerns over construction of mega dams by Pakistan in the illegally occupied regions and abduction of activists who were raising their voices against these projects. The protest came at a time when Pakistan's Chief Justice Saqib Nisar has been seeking donations for the construction of Diamar Basha Dam, a mega project said to displace thousands of locals of Gilgit Baltistan.
ये कहा गया है पाकिस्तान के चीफ जस्टिस साहब को कि चूँकि ये जो गिलगित बल्तिस्तान है ये पाकिस्तान का हिस्सा नहीं है, पाकिस्तान को पानी और बिजली की ज़रूरत है, तो वो पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो है ना वो डैम बनाएं। गिलगित बल्तिस्तान जम्मू कश्मीर चूँकि एक मुतनाज़ा स्टेट है, उस स्टेट के अंदर कोई इस तरीके का बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट जो है ना वो शुरू नहीं किया जा सकता। उसके ख़िलाफ़ गिलगित बल्तिस्तान और जम्मू कश्मीर के लोग इसके ख़िलाफ़ एहतजाज कर रहे हैं।
Activists have long accused Pakistan of aggressively pursuing construction of so-called infrastructure projects in the illegally occupied regions without any consideration of rights of indigenous people and the environment. They allege that people who speak against the exploitation are often implicated on false charges, abducted and killed after they become a challenge.
In news from Afghanistan, at least 10 people were killed after an explosion took place near a security camp in Afghan capital Kabul on Wednesday. The blast came on the same day when President Ashraf Ghani outlined plans for peace in the country while attending a conference in Geneva.
A car bomb targeted a British security contractor's compound in Afghan capital Kabul on Wednesday, killing at least 10 people and wounding several. The Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack, which hit a facility of G4S security group near an industrial park on the main road leading out of Kabul towards eastern Afghanistan. The incident took place on the same day when President Ashraf Ghani outlined plans for peace with Taliban while attending a conference in Geneva. G4S, one of the world's biggest security groups, is one of the foreign security contractors operating in Afghanistan and provide guards for the area around the British embassy. The complex attack on the well-protected site underlines how insecure Kabul remains, despite efforts by the United States and the Afghan government to open peace talks with the Taliban to end more than 17 years of war.
More on news from Afghanistan. Afghanistan's Independent Election Commission on Wednesday announced the presidential elections timeline based on which the polls will be held next year on April 20th. The poll body said the parliamentary elections in Ghazni province will also be held simultaneously with the presidential elections.
Independent Election Commission of Afghanistan or IEC on Wednesday announced the presidential elections timeline based on which the polls will be held next year on April 28th. Chief of the poll body Abdul Badi Sayed said the parliamentary election in Ghazni province will be held simultaneously with the presidential elections. Based on the electoral timeline, the presidential candidates may file nomination papers from December 22, 2018 to 2nd of January 2019.
نه قانون اساسی زیر پا شود نقض شود و نه هم اون مشکلات نادیده گرفته شود به خاطر که خواست حکومت افغانستان هم ای بوده که و خواست بعضی احزاب سیاسی هم ای بوده که هم انتخابات 31 حمل مثل که اعلان شده تاریخ برگزار شود و هر 4 انتخابات هم باید برگزار شود که ای باز در یک وقت امکان نداشت.
کاندیدای ریاست جمهوری هم اجده جدی نشر میشه و بالاخره قرعه کشی کاندیدای ریاست جمهوری هم تاریخ 5 جون 1397 است.
The announcement by the IEC comes as Afghan President Ashraf Ghani in a speech at Geneva Conference on Afghanistan recently reaffirmed his government's will for election to be held on time. The legal tenure for the National Unity Government under President Ghani and Chief Executive Abdullah comes to an end next year in May.
Moving on to news from Bangladesh. An octogenarian former comrade of Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's father in the country's independence struggle is now the face of an embattled opposition seeking to end her decade-long rule. 82-year-old Kamal Hussain would be fighting to wrest away power from Hasina's ruling Awami League in a general election due to be held by December 30 this year.
An 82-year-old former comrade, Kamal Hussain, who was once associated with Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's father in the country's independence struggle, is now the face of an embattled opposition seeking to end her decade-long rule. In an interview earlier this week, Hussain said his decision to forge an alliance with the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party or BNP was critical to restoring democracy in the country. Hussain, who is the leader of newly formed National Unity Front Alliance, has drafted the country's constitution, and Hasina grew up calling him Kaka or uncle.
There have been other critical elections in the past also in similar circumstances where an attempt had been made to undermine democracy, and we revived democracy through elections. But this time is critical because what has happened in the last 5 years is unprecedented. We've never had a government which has been around for 5 years without elections.
Hasina, the daughter of Bangladesh's independence hero, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, is the longest-serving leader in its short history. She began a second straight term in power in 2014 after an election boycotted by the BNP and shunned by international observers, with more than half the seats uncontested. Hussain would be fighting to wrest away power from her ruling Awami League in a general election due to be held by December 30th this year.
The fourth edition of week-long Kashmir World Film Festival began on Wednesday in Srinagar city of India's northern Jammu and Kashmir province. The festival is aimed at promoting film culture and providing a platform to the budding local artists to learn new skills in the field of cinema.
With an objective of reviving the age-old tradition of filmmaking in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir province, the fourth edition of Kashmir World Film Festival began at Tagore Hall in Srinagar city on Wednesday. The week-long film festival would witness the screening of 44 local, national and international films, including films from Iran and Bangladesh. On the first day of the festival, a Hindi Bollywood film, Indu Sarkar, was screened and different cultural programs were presented by local artists.
आर्ट हैज़ नो बाउंड्री. मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ आर्ट कोई सीमा नहीं होती है. आर्ट होता है ऐसा कि आप हर किसी से कनेक्ट करते हो, और फिल्म एक ऐसा माध्यम है वो हमेशा लोगों को कनेक्ट ही करता है, चाहे वो इंटरनेशनल हो, चाहे फॉरेन फिल्म हो, चाहे हिंदी सिनेमा हो या हमारे हिंदुस्तान के कोई भी प्रांत का सिनेमा हो.
आई बिलीव कि जो कश्मीरीज़ हैं वो जनरली काफ़ी आर्ट लवर्स हैं, और ऐसी चीज़ें होती हैं तो वो काफ़ी भागते हैं इन चीज़ों की ओर. दे ऑलवेज वांट टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ इट. इनफैक्ट मैं अपना भी बोलूँगी, मैं जब कश्मीर से बाहर जाती हूँ सबसे पहले मूवी देखने के लिए जाती हूँ. सो इट्स अ ग्रेट थिंग एंड आई एम एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट.
The festival is aimed at promoting the film culture in the province, besides providing a platform to the youth of the region to pick up filmmaking and acting as a profession. It is organized twice in a year and is always built around film movement and associated activities to create a platform for movie lovers.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. India's Earth observation satellite among 31 sent into space. Resistance mounting against illegal occupation of Gilgit Baltistan, Pakistan-administered Kashmir. And at least 10 dead in terror attack in Afghan capital Kabul. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.